What is your horrible freshman roommate story? He wasn't too bad on the whole, except for the habit of alarm snooze 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 alarm snooze. Why do people do this? Edit. Wow. More responses to a single post than I've ever gotten. Folks, I appreciate your apologies. But it wasn't you, at least. It wasn't any of the names you've said you are so far. And I'm not any of the names you've said I am so far. I was the horrible freshman roommate because of one event. I was super tired all the time, so I would often sit on the floor in the shower and just let the water wash my sorrows away. Well, I accidentally fell asleep. And I happened to fall asleep with my butt right on top of the drain. It plugged the drain and caused the entire bathroom, dorm room, and the floor below us to flood. Edit. For the record, this was a newer dorm hall and each room had their own bathroom. I would not sit on the floor of a publicly shared bathroom. The very first weekend of my freshman year in college, my roommate comes back from a party at like 2 AM or whatever, and proceeds to vomit on my ducking desk, which did contain my laptop computer on it. Jay, I know you use Reddit. If you're reading this, duck you. I was in a small triple freshman year. Early on, my roommate was extremely studious and would accept nothing lower than pretty much an A on everything. He would beat himself up if it wasn't good enough and we would try to get him to relax a bit. Second half of freshman year, he buys a new computer and wow, refuses to go to class and played WoW non-stop all night and would sleep through the whole day. It was disrupting to me and my other roommate. He eventually ended up pretty much dropping out of school. I've never seen such a change around. He has actually gotten back on track though and has been doing pretty well for himself. I lived in a triple. Let's call one of my roommates Tom. Tom was a disgusting, inconsiderate sex addict, and I'd venture once of the worst roommates anyone has ever had. Here are just a few examples. Tom masturbated several times a day, just under his sheets. Not subtly. Being a triple in the largest room on the floor, we had people in and out of our room regularly. This didn't matter to him. After a while, we got him to agree to a rule that if we caught him wanking he would stop. But once he was past a certain point, that just wasn't going to happen. Tom had a girlfriend on the floor and would exile us whenever possible. For example, when we were showering, she was a spitter, which I know because the spit cup by his bed was never cleaned out. Tom was a believer in the attest. Apparently going to the toilet only to find out you didn't have to go is a big waste of time. So you just stand up and try to go a little bit first, then run to the toilet if needed. Once, while attempting this, he hit himself a little, he claimed. Right before going out to a party, he asked me if he should shower, but then decided he had no time. Obviously Tom did not wear underwear, and when he returned back from the party he just took off his pants and hopped naked into bed. I don't think those sheets were ever washed. Tom once had to pee during a poker game in our room. Rather than leave, he used a solo cup under the table, and then a second one that he urgently requested as the first was filling up. When he finished, he put the cups on his desk. Later, someone noticed that one of the cups was on its side and empty, over the side of the desk, having apparently spilled over his clothes on the floor. Tom got sick of not being able to have sex with his girlfriend whenever he wanted, so he had this great idea to buy a tent from Target so he could have sex while we were in the room. His girlfriend wasn't having it, so he moved his mattress and the tent to a janitor's closet. Apparently a cleaning lady walked in on him sleeping naked there and he was forced to move back in. We had 2 men's bathrooms on our floor, each with 3 showers. One shower belonged exclusively to Tom and his girlfriend. He kept a lawn chair in there, because sitting is the luxurious way to shower. You can imagine what else went on in there, and why nobody else used it. At the end of the year, we did a survey. Over half of the people on the floor had seen his D at least once. I know this sounds unbelievable, but this is all 100% true. Edit. I forgot this story. Late one night, we're exiled as usual, and my other roommate, call him Phil, comes back and wants to go to sleep. He knocks. Tom tells him 10 minutes. He comes back a while later. 10 more minutes. After half an hour, Phil can't take it anymore and starts pounding repeatedly on the door. After a minute or so, Tom opens the door, nude and fully erect. and says, "If you want to sleep, you're going to have to suck me off first." I should mention at this point Phil is a big guy with probably 40 pounds on Tom, but normally quite chill. Phil takes a swing at Tom and the two of them start to brawl. It took 3 or 4 guys to separate them. Tensions were high for a while after that, and we had to do conflict resolution with our but the legend of Boner Fight was one of the defining memories of that year. Edit 2. Answering some common questions. Yes. This all really happened. Yes. Tom was a good looking guy, as evidenced by his attractive girlfriend and the girls he brought home after they broke up. He actually showered regularly, so his grossness wasn't obvious unless you paid close attention. Yes. His girlfriend was a bit nuts. No. My roommate and I never complained to the school or tried to get him kicked out, though I believe some girls on the floor may have. I don't even think we considered it. It's hard to say why, other than the fact that a lot of this seemed more hilarious than annoying at the time. And trying to get someone kicked out of school because they are disgusting and inconsiderate would have been overkill. I would probably react differently today, but we were college kids at the time and we tended to work out our issues amongst ourselves. Also, despite the Kevin comparisons, Tom was not a stupid guy. I did some research and found that he appears to have quite a successful career today and appears to be a normally functioning member of society. He had a GF that didn't attend our university that would stay the entire weekend. They stayed in bed, lights out, ordered delivery, wouldn't leave. At one point I woke up and there was a baby in our room. They were babysitting a ducking baby. She was disgusting and a total slob and wouldn't let me clean her side of the room. It was always super cluttered with it everywhere. Our room had a gross smell all the time because of her. So I finally broke down and decided to let her be mad at me, and cleaned everything. I found cups, like 5 or 6, of partially drank spoiled, rotten, curdled chocolate milk, plates of partially eaten moldy food. It was horrible. She got so pissed off that I cleaned it that she ended up moving in with another girl. I wasn't upset about it. She'd also have loud crazy sex at any and all hours of the night. Wouldn't lock our door and I ended up getting some items stolen. It was a mess. My roommate had no sleep schedule. He also chewed loudly, played the bass, and watched anime without headphones at the same time. At 3 AM. I was friends with a girl a year behind me. Her freshman year she was randomly matched with a girl who, 1, was convinced she was in a relationship with the lead singer of Tokyo Hotel, and had been for several years. But it was obviously some catfisher on the internet. They would Skype where only he could see her. His video would be blank for security reasons and he told her they could never meet in person because of the media. And since he was always on tour she would Skype with him at all hours of the night to make up for the time zone differences. It was actually kinda sad scary. Several people I know tried to explain to her that she was being taken advantage of, but she would not listen. Pretty sure she did stuff on camera for him and sent him money. 2. Brought multiple bags from home stuffed full of her cat's hair, and knitted tiny clothes figurines whatever out of it. My friend was of course very allergic to cat hair. We had a suite of 6 guys. One of these guys, Ron, was a weird ass hippie who did all sorts of hysterical things. Example 1. He was barefoot wherever he went, not too bad, but we got concerned when it started snowing. Example 2. Me and another sweet mate came home one day and opened the door and there were something like 5 20-gallon drums filled with dirt and dying plants. There were bugs everywhere for weeks. When we asked Ron what the duck, he responded by exclaiming, "Look guys, can you believe the farm was giving these away for free?" Example 3. He liked to use the microwave to cook. He once baked weed into chocolate using the microwave. Impressive. Another time he put a plastic bowl in for about 20 minutes until the ducking thing vaporized and released poison smoke. Another time he made his tea so hot that it spilled and melted the carpet. Example 4. He invited my roommate in for a threesome. Guess it would have been a foursome if he had said yes, out of the blue. Example 5. He fermented apple wine under his bed. That was actually pretty cool. She got kicked out for failing. And the night before she left she got super drunk, threw up everywhere and left me to clean it up. My roommate freshman year was a Chinese exchange student straight outta Shanghai. His name was Zahal or something. But if you're anything past 1 semester into college, you know they have their own English names. For whatever reason he chose the name Jose, ducking Jose. He didn't speak much English. 2. He definitely understood more than he could speak. But we got along marvelously. One night, I was out showing him the American pastime of drinking games. I asked him, "Yo Jose, you have had alcohol before, right? Cause you know, I didn't want to get in trouble if he died of alcohol poisoning." He says yes, but looking back, it was definitely a no. So about 2 hours pass and this kid is slugging beers. Of course, everyone wants to teach the Chinese kid everything Americans do. By this 2-hour mark, he must have beer bonged 3 beers, shotgun 2, casually drank another 2. He starts feeling sick. I can see it in his eyes. He grabs it and we take off back to our dorm room. Halfway there, he starts stumbling and falling in the hallway of our dorm, heads over to the trash can, and just starts puking his brains out. I get him into the room, get him some water and make sure he don't choke on his puke. In the morning, he starts freaking out because he can't find his phone. He turns on the Find My iPhone thing, and the trash can he puked in the night before starts pinging. We had to search through this filled trash can of puke and garbage to find his phone about halfway down. TLDR, Chinese man named Jose had his first beers, puked in a trash can and threw his phone in there with it. We had to get it out. He was leaving dirty plates in his bed, covered with his sheets. When he was going to sleep, he just kicked the plates and didn't bother to clean them. Left for class but it got cancelled, and when I came back in the room my roommate was in my video game chair watching Lifetime with 1/4 of nighttime cold medicine next to him and my camp blanket up around his neck. Conversation followed. Me, "You naked under my blanket?" Him, "Yeah man." Me, "Beaten off to Lifetime high on cold meds?" Him, "Yeah man." Me, "I'll be back in 10 minutes, don't be here." Him, "Yeah man." My freshman roommate lost her virginity the night before moving to her much older, very creepy, unemployed, musician, boyfriend, in the hotel room that she was sharing with her mom and little sister, who were in the bed next to them. This guy basically lived with us on weekends. I had to always change in the dark because a strange creepy dude was lying there, usually butt naked. They had a lot of gross sex. She decided it would be funny to pants me during a 4 AM fire drill in front of the entire dorm, which was co-ed. I don't wear underwear to sleep. She failed to see how this wasn't hilarious. There were a million other things, but those stick out the most. Edit. Some grammar things because I'm getting hate mail. I was tired and on public transport people. Okay. I shared a room with one guy. He would have 6 while I was in the room trying to sleep. He drank my booze, ate my food and used my stuff. One night I was sleeping while he was banging away. When they finished, they started making fun of me. I got up, walked across the room and crawled into bed with them. They were mortified. One of my freshman roommates was a self-professed kleptomaniac. She got a huge thrill from stealing clothes from department stores, usually Nordstrom, in the first week or so of school. She went through her closest and showed us all of the clothing she had stolen. Plus she knew how much each item cost and how she'd swiped it. Thousands of dollars worth of nice clothing. She had so much that half of it still had tags on and she never wore it. But she took it because she knew she could. Usually this theft involved carrying a really big purse, taking way too many items into a dressing room, and then emerging with one item in the purse, one to buy, and the rest to put back. Then if an alarm went off, they would assume it was just the item she had purchased and let her leave. Half the time she returned the item she paid for soon after too. It got to the point where girls in the dorm would go to the mall with her, and they'd all pick out clothes they liked and she'd go back on her own later and steal them for them. It was crazy. And to my knowledge, she's still doing this and hasn't been caught. She never seemed to steal from anywhere other than department stores, and none of my stuff ever went missing. So I guess she wasn't too bad of a roommate. Really, just a person of questionable morals. She was sweet as a peach to your face, but honest to God couldn't stand not being the center of attention. Lied about insomnia to her teachers because she stayed up late playing video games and laughing super loud and calling her friends. Started seeing things the more time I spent with my boyfriend and not with her. And tried to, against campus policy, rewrite our roommate contract with our sketchy RA so that she could claim I was breaking our agreement and get me kicked out since I was no longer paying her any attention. Had a roommate come back to our dorm room from one of the many Rush Week frat parties he attended, wasted out of his mind. He stripped down to his stained white briefs and passed out on his bed. In the middle of the night, I woke up to find him standing, totally nude, inches from my bed, his ass literally right in my face. He proceeded to fart in my face and then stopped pissing in the trash can next to my bed. After he was done pissing in the trash can and all over the floor, he promptly went back to his bed and passed out on his bed, face up, with no covers. I got up, got a bottle of Febreze, and sprayed the hell out of my trash can in the rug. I then realized why he pissed in my trash can. It's because he had puked in his. So, I sprayed his trash can too. Then, for good measure and because I was pissed, I spent about 30 seconds spraying his naked D and balls with Febreze while he snored and drooled. Yeah, I hated that douchebag. He brought a keyboard. He only know the first 50 seconds or so of the Star Wars Cantina song, but practiced those 50 seconds as loudly as possible 4 hours at a time. They actually crammed 3 of us into a dorm room. That was bad enough because it was duckin' cramped. One of the guys that was in there seemed totally fine when I first met him. Turns out all he did was stay out partying really late every night. Then he'd sleep in every single day. We never even got a chance to talk to this guy because he'd come back after we'd gone to sleep. And he would never even wake up until we were long gone attending classes for the day. Even then I wouldn't have cared much. Except I don't think the kid ever took a shower. He made our whole dorm room smell like some kind of sour, tangy BO, and it was ducking awful. If I remember right, that it went on until Thanksgiving break. When we came back from break, all his it was gone and we never saw him again. I was the horrible roommate. I tried to commit suicide the day before school started. Fortunately, my roommate didn't learn of that until later. Although she did inadvertently save my life that day. So, I was suicidally depressed. Soon after school started, I had a schizophrenic relapse with psychotic episodes. We had no idea about psychotic episodes or schizophrenia at the time. I ruined so many of her days and nights. But she got me help and stuck by me. She even agreed to be my roommate again when I was able to return to school. In this thread, I found these 2 seemingly formulaic comments. More than he was liberal and super PC and also very, very stupid. He was always trying to argue that cops are all evil, that there is systematic racism, and that we have to give money and take care of everyone. Once I saw a girl call him out when he was trying to explain myths like the wage gap. Glorious. By you Des didn't catch it 69. And, more than he was a misogynist and a Republican. And also very, very stupid. He was always trying to prove to women that he was talking to that he was smarter than them. Once I saw a girl catch him out when he failed to name all the continents. It was glorious. He could only name 5. By you never enough Muppets. Weird. My roommate sold his TV and VCR in the first 2 weeks to buy drugs without telling me. He stopped going to class about the same time and also got a girlfriend. So they were in the room having sex all the time. He decided 2 months into the semester to sell weed. He ended up smoking it all. He and every one of his friends that he hung out with failed out after the first semester. There's so much more. Edit. NSFW animal abuse. Not my roommate, but my sister's. The guy was a friend of her friend and there were about 6 people living in this big house. My sister had a pet kitten and there were a couple of other kittens in the house. They would roam freely. This guy really liked shooting heroin. Apparently, one day he was really ducked up and got pissed off about something. My sister's kitten was in his room, so he kicked it in the head as hard as he could and then slammed its head in the door. Blood shot out of the kitten's ear and all over the wall. Her eye was severely damaged. My sister came home from class and found her kitten near death. She rushed it to the emergency vet. It had severe brain, ear, and eye trauma. It almost died, but they saved it, costing my sister several $1,000s on a college student budget. Not too long after, my brother kicked the guy's ass and threw him out of the door and into the street. The roommates threw all of his stuff outside and kicked him out for good. The cat lived to be about 9 but was mentally retarded and had a lot of health problems. Ducking asshole. I lived in an apartment style dorm with a kitchen, living room, and 2 double bedrooms. One of the guys in the other bedroom fancied himself a chef. In reality, I think he was a dishwasher at Outback, so he would cook all the time in the apartment. He had this habit of hanging a plastic shopping bag from the oven door handle and just tossing cut scraps, eggshells, etc. into that bag. The problem is, he never actually threw that bag away. I was never around while he was cooking, so I didn't pay that bag much mind nor realize it was always the same bag. After couple of weeks, we started to notice a foul smell and the presence of fruit flies in the apartment. I was deep cleaning the kitchen and I brushed up against that bag and no less than 100 fruit flies burst up from inside it. Needless to say, I freaked the hell out. A visit from the RA and the maintenance team to spray, and he was required to clean up after every meal and take the trash out twice a week, on penalty of being kicked out of the dorms. Mine was not terrible by any means, but he did have this quirk that confuses me to this day. Whenever he got something to eat, he would put it in the room's mini fridge to chill. Burgers, fries, pizza, it all went in the fridge before he ate it. After his food was properly chilled, he would take out a head of iceberg lettuce and ranch dressing and eat it as a side. Sometimes he would rip off a leaf and dip it in a ranch bowl, but more often than not he would drizzle the ranch on the head itself and eat the whole thing like an apple. Possibly the oddest eating habit I've ever seen. Oh, she was precious. On the very first day of moving in, she had arrived first and set up her belongings, which ended up taking over half the already tiny dorm room. She would constantly shave her legs in our shared sink and not clean it up, and on too many occasions would have loud phone sex with her boyfriend who was still in high school. But the moment that just made every fiber of my being loathe her was the Easy Mac incident. For the sake of this story, let's call her Kiki. It is a Sunday afternoon and I was in my bed reading and she was at her desk. She gets up and goes to her cabinets to get out a thing of Easy Mac. She proceeds to put it in the microwave and sits back at her desk. Within seconds I start to smell something burning and I look down and see the microwave is billowing with what looked like a miniature mushroom cloud of black smoke filling up the inside. Kiki is oblivious, so I have to yell for her to stop the microwave. She gets up and immediately just opens the microwave door and the black smoke escapes, filling our entire dorm with this putrid black smoke, sending the fire alarms off and bringing about 15 people banging on the door. After the smoke clears and the situation settles, I start getting fans out and opening windows to start clearing out the smell of burnt noodles and plastic. I turned to Kiki and I asked what happened and how she made it burn so fast, and she states that she has no clue. So I asked, well, did you put water in it? And she turns to me and starts doing a heinous cackle like laughter and says, oh my god, I forgot. That is so funny. Maybe not truly horrifying, but it was awful and she was the worst. Sexiled me on the 3rd day of orientation, before school even started. It turned out okay though. I walked down the hall to see who would let me crash in their room, and made new friends. Found his Tumblr. He was talking about how every time he sees me he wants to shoot me in the face, and my best friend was antimatter or some BS. I didn't report him or anything because I knew he was just venting and was too much of a wuss to actually shoot me. I like to live dangerously. I went to boarding school, so I'm going to tell you all my horrible junior roommate story. Since my junior year of high school was my first year living in a dorm, during our first couple weeks, everyone made tons of new friends. No one seemed to like my roommate very much, so she clung to me and my friends. She creeped the boys out by asking if they wanted to have sex. She wasn't very attractive. She creeped out a lesbian couple by asking if she could watch them have sex. She got upset with my friends when she saw them talking to boys I was interested in. She ate most of my food without asking. She didn't have a cell phone. This was 2006. So she borrowed mine sometimes. On more than one occasion, she used it past lights out and woke me up because she was singing loudly over the phone to her boyfriend. She would hit snooze on her alarm clock until she was late for class. according to dorm staff. Anyway, I was out the door to get breakfast before she woke up every morning. Eventually, she was put on a dorm restriction because she was late to class so often, which meant instead of asking me to ask my friends for rides into town, she sat in our room all day and played on my computer. She used my tampons and then complained because I wouldn't buy her light tampons. She was not invited back to the school for her senior year. Not that it would have affected me either way, because my best friend and I requested to live together. I didn't go to college, but when I was 19 I lived in a small rental house with 3 other dudes, and there were shenanigans. The worst was Joe. He came home blackout drunk once and broke the bathroom. He broke a mirror, then fell onto the toilet, and then into the shower, which bent the rod in half, and somehow pushed the toilet off of the mount, causing a huge wave of water to spill in the basement. He literally broke the whole bathroom. Plus that same day he cooked a pizza and a bunch of cheese and pepperoni fell to the bottom of the oven and burned, and made the whole house smell like burnt pepperoni. Joe sucked as a roommate. My roommate was 7 feet 1, 340 pounds. He was a ducking ogre. The kid didn't understand personal hygiene and would shower maybe every 2-3 days. My room would smell like dirty diapers. It got so bad to the point where I couldn't have company over anymore. One day at basketball practice he was being roasted for always smelling like it and to wear deodorant. To which he replied stunned, "All of you guys wear deodorant? Yeah, duck you max." 1. My roommate my freshman year had a weak heart valve and didn't tell me about it, or the fact he had a pacemaker. So as we casually walk across campus he just says, "Hey, wait a second," proceeds to lay down, die twice before my eyes and get shocked back to life, then act like nothing happened. 2. Walked in on him doing the nasty with his GF at 11 AM on a Sunday with the door unlocked, saw the GF's tit. 3. Broke his bed having sex. Told me he rolled over last night and it collapsed, which I believed until I saw his used condom on the ground. One of my suitemates regularly took Ambien and passed the duck out. There was absolutely no waking him. At one point his roommate tried to wake him up by literally lifting the back end of his bed and shaking it. He continued to snore. He screamed in his face, like literally less than 6 inches from his face. "Wake the duck up, asshole." Snorersville. At one point, his alarm played non-stop for 3 hours. The same song, Blurry by Puddle of Mud, for 3 ducking hours. Can you take it all away? Hey I can you take it all away? Hey I ducking hate that song now.